Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be looking at Standard 6 assessment. Here, the teacher understands and uses multiple methods of assessment to engage learners in their own growth, to monitor learner progress and guide the teachers and learners in decision making. Among all the standards, this is the first part of instructional practice, and if done correctly will help guide Standard 7, Planning for Instruction, and Standard 8, Instructional Strategies. In order to fairly and adequately assess learner progress and growth, teachers should incorporate a variety of assessment methods in their classrooms. Students need and deserve lessons that respond appropriately to the way that they are developing in the classroom, and the way that they can be implemented is through varied and multiple forms of assessment. Teachers who take advantage of both formal and informal assessment methods are empowered in the sense that they can provide the best and most individualized education for their students. So, why is assessment important? Asking students to demonstrate their understanding of the subject is a matter of critical to the learning process. It is essential to evaluate whether the educational goals and standards of the lessons are being met. Assessment is an integral part of instruction, as it determines whether or not the goals of education are being met. Assessment affects decisions about grades, placement, advancement, instructional needs, curriculum, and in some cases, funding. Assessment inspires us to ask these hard questions. Are we teaching what we think we are teaching? Are students learning what they are supposed to be learning? Is there a way to teach the subject better, thereby promoting better learning? Today's students need to know not only basic reading and arithmetic skills, but also skills that will allow them to face a world that is continually changing. They must be able to think critically, to analyze and make inferences. Changes in the skill base and knowledge our students need require new learning goals. These new learning goals change the relationship between assessment and instruction. Teachers need to take an active role in making decisions about the purpose of assessment and the content that is being assessed. When assessment works best, it provides feedback, telling us what the student knows, what are their needs, and what has to be taught. It allows us to evaluate progress, see how the student is doing, show us what teaching methods or approaches are most effective, and what changes or modifications to a lesson are needed to help the student. It relates to a student's progress. What has the student learned? Can the student talk about the new knowledge? Can the student demonstrate and use the new skills in other projects? And it motivates performance. For student self-evaluation, they can ask, now that I'm in charge of my own learning, how am I doing? Now that I know how I'm doing, how can I do better? And what else would I like to learn? For teacher self-evaluation, we can ask, what is working for the students? What can I do to help the students more? And in what direction should I go next? Now, let's look at the different types of assessments.
You complete me. And I just had...
Shut up. Just shut up. You had me at
Entry and exit tickets.
I'm the king of the world!
Rubrics!
Today, we celebrate our...
Casual chats with students.
Stay here. I'll be back.
For the final exam. Nobody does a quiz in the corner.
That they may take our lives but they'll never take our freedom!
Now raise your hand to show me you understand. Give me a formative assessment anytime.
Bullshit. You can be.
Give me a summative assessment. As we have previously touched upon many different types of assessments in Module 5, today I would like to briefly focus on the main types of assessment we use in our classroom, particularly formative, summative, and perhaps alternative assessments. Formative assessments refers to tools that identify misconceptions, struggles, and learning gaps along the way, and assess how to close those gaps. It includes effective tools for helping to shape learning and can even bolster students' abilities to take ownership of their learning when they understand that the goal is to improve learning, not apply final marks. It can include students assessing themselves, peers, or even the instructor through writing, quizzes, conversations, and more. In short, formative assessment occurs throughout a class or course and seeks to improve student achievement of learning objectives through approaches that can support specific student needs. Common types of formative assessments are in-class discussions, clicker questions, low-stakes group work, weekly quizzes, quick reflections and writing exercises, and homework assessments and surveys. In contrast, summative assessments evaluate student learning, knowledge, proficiency, or success at the conclusion of an instructional period, like a unit course or program. Summative assessments are almost always formally graded and often heavily weighted, though they need not be. Summative assessment can be used to great effect in conjunction and alignment with formative assessment, and instructors can consider a variety of ways to combine these approaches. Common types of summative assessments are instructor-created exams, standardized tests, and final projects, essays, presentations, reports, and grades. Alternative assessments, often called authentic, comprehensive, or performance assessment, is usually designed by the teacher to gauge students' understanding of the material. Examples of these measurements are open-ended questions, written compositions, oral presentations, projects, experiments, and portfolios of student work. Alternate assessments are designed so that the content of the assessment matches the content of the instruction. Effective assessments give students feedback on how well they understand the information and on what they need to improve, while helping teachers better design instruction. Assessment becomes even more relevant when students become involved in their own assessment. Students taking an active role in developing the scoring criteria, self-evaluation, and goal setting more readily accept that the assessment is adequately measuring their learning. Authentic assessment can include many of the following: observations, essays, interviews, performance tasks, exhibitions and demonstrations, teacher-created tests, journals, rubrics, portfolios, and self and peer evaluation.